Hello, BookTube. I have some mail for you, some packages, a big box that came from one of you, and also periodicals, the TLS. Now, the TLS, when I go through these periodicals, I'm not dragging you through the highlights of every single article in the piece. I used to do that on my late book blog, Steve Reads. I used to have a feature called In the Penny Press, where I would do that. I would get a new TLS and I would just write it up. I would just do a critical analysis of the issue. But this is not that, because that would be a little tedious even by the tedium standards of this channel. This is instead sort of a touch on things here and there that I'm keeping you up to date on in the TLS in case you don't subscribe. There's apparently the Penguin Modern Classics is going to induct Roberto Calasso for Tiepolo Pink. That's going to be the new volume. Those Modern Classics aren't available in America. So that one will take a while. I imagine that betokens that it will show up in the Penguin Classic Black Spine edition somewhere down the line. I believe I reviewed Tiepolo Pink, or perhaps I edited the writer who did. Once again, if I can find it, I will, and post a link to it down below. It was not a very gentle review, if memory serves. But there is one of the things that I show you that I would like to take you through in the TLS is the letters page. Because the letters page is where controversies happen and where bitter exchanges can happen too. And we saw that happen once upon a time with George Steiner, whose posthumous reputation was battered from pillar to post for weeks. And the other day, there was a letter about Isaiah Berlin that I thought might spark the same kind of thing, and it has. It has. A writer named David Bentley Hart, who's done some good work on his own, wrote an unbelievably pompous letter calling Isaiah Berlin basically an intellectual fraud. And someone wrote in and defended him, and as it was inevitably going to happen, someone wrote in and defended his reputation. And when I read you the first letter, the offending letter, and I read you the second letter, a bit of it, and I wondered at the time, will David Bentley Hart write back in? Will he defend his contention? The TLS is perfectly willing to let you do that. They like these kinds of letters page brouhahas as much as anybody. They're so much fun. And David Bentley Hart did. He did write back in. And as soon as I saw that, my first question was, will his response letter be as pompous as his original letter? And he did not let me down. I want to read it to you. I honor Henry Hardy for being so gallant to champion. I'm almost tempted to do the Harold Bloom voice. This is that bad. For being so gallant a champion of Sir Isaiah Berlin's posterity. But in attempting to deflect my animadversions on the Magus of the North, Berlin's slim and very silly volume on J.G. Hamann, he is attempting to defend the indefensible. Hardy objects to my observation that Hamann specialists have expressed unanimous disdain for the quality of the book's scholarship and the perspicacity of its judgments. But the evidence he marshals to the contrary is oddly weak. He quotes 3 scholarly reviewers who are most definitely not Hamann specialists, and the sentences he plucks from their reviews attest only to Berlin's charming gifts as a writer for the generally uninformed, which I would never deny. There, see, we've only just gotten started, and already is he unbearably pompous and condescending. But he has now extended the ambit of his condescending dismissal from Isaiah Berlin to all of Isaiah Berlin's readers, right? All of his readers. Berlin's charming gifts as a writer for the generally uninformed. Okay, great. Admittedly, Hardy cites a passage from a personal correspondence from James O'Flaherty, who was indeed a very distinguished Hamann scholar. He was also, however, a man of unfailing graciousness, as his brief engagement with Berlin on the text in the New York Review of Books in 1993 also demonstrates. The line Hardy reproduces are clearly meant as a gentlemanly compliment on the book in general, offered prefatory to a much more negative assessment of the book's particulars. Indeed, I encourage Hardy to publish the full text of the letter online somewhere. I happen to be quite keenly aware of O'Flaherty's ultimate opinion of the book, and it was not a high one. Hardy also takes me to task for pointing out Berlin's failure to grasp Hamann's intellectual precociousness in raising issues of linguistic philosophy that would not be revisited until a century or more after. But the best he can offer by way of disproof of my claim is a single elliptical sentence from Berlin's text that suggests some affinity between Hamann's thought and the, quote, modern personality and methods of modern philosophical sex, which, to be fair, is about as precise as Berlin ever tended to get on such matters. And Hardy's riposte to my accusation of superficial scholarship is to mention a pair of rather mediocre secondary texts that Berlin cites, and, to be honest, cribs. Bibliographical name-dropping is, of course, a venerable academic tradition. You ought to know. You ought to know, you pompous git. But it does not make a book manifestly brimming with misstatements any more respectable. By far the most magisterial text on Hamann available now in English is John Betts's After Enlightenment from 2009, a hugely erudite work of intimidatingly comprehensive scholarship. Betts, a student of O'Flaherty's as it happens, mentions Berlin's book once in passing, mostly as a courtesy. Like his teacher, he makes polite noises about Berlin's learning and literary skills, but then remarks that, quote, one must regret that Berlin does not plumb the depths of Hamann's concerns or take into account nearly 50 years of scholarship, which has come to very different conclusions, close quote. So David Bentley Hart is trying here to make a case that he's right, and that scholars on Hamann have dismissed Berlin's book as the bumbling effort of a dilettante. And you have to admit, Hart is doing an excellent job. He is actually nailing his argument. He's nailing his case. But you still want to hit him with a croquet racket, which I'm not sure that doesn't counteract the one with the other. He finishes up this way. In a modified form, that might serve as a verdict on much of Berlin's oeuvre. Once again, he was a generalist with a broad but shallow learning, narrow sympathies, small philosophical aptitude, and an elegant pen. I admire many of his essays, but they are popular works at best. Intellectual divertissements, confections, just as pleasant as one of those square mint chocolates one sometimes gets with one's after-dinner coffee, and just as nourishing. Signed, David Bentley Hart. So I think it's safe to say, since that response calls in a lot of other people, insults a lot of other people, enlists a lot of other people, and is, if anything, more condescending than the original letter, I have a feeling this debate is not over. I have a feeling someone else will write in right away to say, no, you have it all wrong. But one way or another, that was the periodical part of the mail haul. Then we have actual mail. 2 packages and 2 boxes. So we'll do this first one here. I have my package disposal unit at the ready. Oh. As you can tell, it's a little bit cooler. Just a tiny bit cooler here. So Frida is a little bit more disposed to destroy things than she was a few days ago. So what do we got here? This is something oddly packaged here. It's coming in between 2 blocks of cardboard. Why is that? Oh, okay, it's a little oversized. So that might be, oh, do you want the cardboard, baby? Oh, you do. Okay, she wants the cardboard too. She's even more. It's okay, all right, well, great. Fantastic, she likes cardboard, okay. The only reason this came in that cardboard is because it's an oversized book, and I guess the publicist was worried that it might flop all over or get bent or whatever. Very nice, that's very nice, that's very considerate. This is the Bloomsbury Look by Wendy Hitchmo. The Bloomsbury Look, slated for late October. The Bloomsbury Group was a loose collective of forward-thinking writers, artists, and intellectuals in London, with Virginia Woolf, John Maynard Keynes, and E.M. Forster among its esteemed members. The group's works and radical beliefs, spanning literature, economics, politics, and untraditional relationships, changed the course of 20th century culture and society. Certainly they said they did, and they would have loved that. I wonder if is there a last surviving Bloomsbury member who wrote this? Although its members resisted definition, their art and dress imparted a coherent and distinctive group identity. This is not a fashion history of Bloomsbury, is it? Drawing on unpublished photographs and extensive new research, the Bloomsbury Look is the first in-depth analysis of how the Bloomsbury Group generated and broadcast its self-fashioned aesthetic. Okay, all right. Okay, well, okay. Okay. It's going to be richly illustrated, and it's certainly all the Bloomsbury books that I have read. I've never read a fashion guide. I've never read them seen through the lens of their aesthetic. That is a new one to me, and I'm all for it. I'm all for it. The author could tell me something really interesting. Wendy Hitchmo is a senior lecturer in art history at the University of Sussex, and was curator at the Bloomsbury Artists' Home, Charleston, for over 12 years. So she knows her subject really well. We shall see. That hit me out of the blue, but we'll give it a try. I won't give it a try until October. Now, baby, you are just inexhaustible. No, there's no more cardboard, little girl, but you've barely touched the cardboard that you have. Here, why don't you try this? We'll make a treat shape out of it. We'll try that. Oh God, that took off my fingers. So, what have we got here? Okay, this is from Soho Press. This is another October pub date. I guess this is coming out in October. This is called The Land. It's a novel by Thomas Maltman. The Land. Oh, terrific cover. Recent college dropout and hobbyist computer game programmer Lucian Swenson has spent the last several months recovering from a terrible auto accident. Under the guise of further recovery and amidst a growing national anxiety around impending Y2K, Lucian opts to become a caretaker of an isolated house in northern Minnesota. An isolated house in northern Minnesota. What good ever came from such a locale? Where he will spend the winter looking after the elderly house owner's dog and developing a revolutionary computer game. Shortly after moving in, Lucian pursues his true intentions, which he has kept secret from his protective family. He wants to find out what really happened to Mara, a missing woman he had been having an affair with, who vanished one night along with money stolen from the bank where they had worked together. That took a turn. Lucian's search takes him to Rose of Sharon, a white supremacist church deep in the wilderness, where Mara's husband leads the congregation. Under a false identity, for fear of discovery, Lucian becomes entangled with a cabal of outcasts who wait for the end of the world at a place they call the Land. As he gets closer to the truth behind his lover's disappearance and falls deeper into grief and obsession, Lucian is visited at the house by wolves and a mysterious guest who may not be who she claims, as well as a vast flock of violent ravens out of an apocalyptic vision. Written by a master of the form, The Land is both an atmospheric literary mystery and soul-wrenching spiritual noir. Spiritual noir, I like that. I like that very much. That explores the dark side of personal religious belief, entrenched white supremacy in the heartland, America's obsession with end times, and the nature of the sacrifices we make for those we love. Well, I'm sold. Absolutely sold. I want to read this. I won't, once again, because it's October. It's October release. I have a huge number of books on my docket, so I will let this wait a bit. But that sounds fantastic. Who is the author? Thomas Maltman has an MFA from Minnesota State University. His first novel, The Nightbirds, won an Alex Award, a Spur Award, and a Friends of American Writers Literary Award. His second novel, Little Wolves, was an Indie Next pick and an All Iowa Reads selection. And he teaches at Normandale Community College and lives in the Twin Cities area. Okay, and the backside of this thing is a ton of blurbs for this book and his previous book. Fantastic. Okay. Little Wolves was praised by the Christian Science Monitor. At its heart, Little Wolves is a powerful mystery. Maltman combines mythology and small-town claustrophobia to show how the roots of violence are planted. Wasn't me. I didn't review The Wolves, not only because I don't tend to review fiction for the Christian Science Monitor, but also because I know that roots aren't planted. Seeds are planted. But anyway, one way or another, it's high praise. So then we have a couple of boxes. And one of them is light as a feather. And I don't know what this could be. It is too light. I feel certain that it's too light to be a book. I have a feeling that both of these boxes are presents. One of them I know is. The big box I know is a present. And this one I think is too. And you have to have a talk, BookTube. You have to have a long talk about you people sending me presents, okay? Because we're in the middle of a pandemic and money is short, and every trip outside the house is a risk of infection. And I've got all the stuff I want. So what have we got here? Oh, this lovely thing all wrapped in pink. Okay, well, the card. Baby, there is no way that I'm going to give you this. This was done with love and attention. It wasn't meant to go down into a schnauzer gullet. Goodness gracious. Okay, well, the problem with love and attention is that, you know, you don't want to savagely rip into the string and everything, but try untying a string if you have a permanent mittens on your hands. That's not easy. Not easy to do. What is this? You're not having any of this. No, although you are involved. Will you look at that? I don't know for sure that the sender of this wants me to mention his name, but look at that. How do they compare? Oh no, baby, you can't eat this. This is a present. See, that's you. Well, thank you. You know who you are. Thank you so much. How wonderful. So I just put this on a nail on the wall. Yes, oh, I will gladly do that. I wonder if there's a way for me to make it visible in every video. I'll have to check and see. I wish you could see. This is done with sort of string. That's not painted. It's done with sort of string, so it's like there's fur sticking out there. That is the face of my life right now. For most of my life, 99% of my life, if you told me that, I would have said, no, you've got the wrong dog breed. That's not what the face of my life is. But now, that is the face of my life. So, thank you very much. Oh, goodness gracious. All right, and then we have the big box. Great big thing that has, I don't know if you can make it out. Yes, it has Walmart on it. A number of you were charmed and a little confused, especially those of you in the Midwest, in the sprawling American Midwest, where Walmart and Kmart are ways of life. A lot of you were a little bit charmed and a little bit confused by my hymns of awestruck praise, like Marco Polo coming back from the Khan's court, about Walmart, about how much I love it. Because you have to drive to go to Walmart. Generally speaking, you have to drive to go to Walmart. And I don't drive. Never sat behind the wheel of a car in my life. Wouldn't have the first idea what to do. And so Walmart and other big box emporiums of dirt cheap everything store stuff like that are largely alien to me. Every time I go somewhere and my host is willing to take me to a Walmart, I am thrilled. Several of you were charmed by that. This is a box from Walmart. So let's take a look and see what we have here. So we've got this air stuff. Frida loves these things, but they can't have them. No, because this is plastic. This is going to sit inside her. Although she's had this last week has done a number on her appetite. She really hasn't been all that interested in food. Neither have I, because it's been so hot here. I have the best viewers in the world. It's Mega Stuff Oreos. The food of the gods. Oh my. I have the best viewers in the world. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I have, I admit, a sweet tooth for Mega Stuff Oreos. And now I have plenty. I can't get them. The one, I'm walking and I'm staying local, and I'm extremely parsimoniously parsing out my trips outside that aren't required either, you know, financially or medically. So the one shop that I have that's within walking distance has everything I could possibly want. It's all the rice I could possibly eat. Has a friendly cat. You know, all the basics. The one place that I go to, they don't have Mega Stuff Oreos, and I'm not going to ask the guy. The guy's got enough trouble just staying in business. I'm not going to ask him to get a special item. So I've been going without, except for the Mega Stuff Oreos sent by all of you, and that is just... I swear, this is a mail haul full of presents, for Pete's sake. All right, so, well, there we go. They earned their place in the Steve Pyramid. We have Mega Stuff Oreos. We have the Bloomsbury Look, an oversized, heavily illustrated book coming out in October about the particular aesthetic appearance of the Bloomsbury group. A weird way to look at them, but it could be fruitful. Then we have The Land by Thomas Maltman, who had an all-Iowa pick for his previous book. And I don't even know what this is. I don't know what this craft is. Is this knitting? I don't know. I have no idea, but it's all set to hang on a nail. A little keepsake of Frida Bean, my busy little schnauzer, who's bouncing all around the room now because she's sensing that there must be more that's edible here than what she's actually been given, but there isn't. I gave her some cardboard to chew on. She won't eat that. She'll just chew on it. But that's it. That is the mail. No, baby, leave the plastic alone. It reminds me of a Frida anecdote. I haven't told you a Frida anecdote in a while. We were walking yesterday, or no, the day before yesterday, on a tiny, quiet side street up on the hill, and we were just walking along, having a wonderful time, chatting and minding our own business. And a woman was walking 3 young children across the street, coming towards us across the street. And one of the a little girl, bolted across the street when she saw Frida. She yelling, "Oh, what a cute dog! Oh, what a cute dog!" And when she approached us, her mother called out to her, but it was too late. When she approached us, when she was right there, and Frida was standing on her hind legs, waving her front legs, wanting to cuddle and canoodle, I squatted down to the girl's eye level, because if I can at all help it, I don't talk down to children, either figuratively or literally. I squatted down to her level, and I sort of put up a hand and said, "Okay, you just did 3 important things wrong." And she came up, stop like that. I was being friendly, but I said, it was 3 important things that you just did wrong. And I want to know if you can tell me what they are and why they're important. I'll start you off with the first one, which is that you just bolted across the street without looking. Now, I know perfectly well that you know not to do that. Even on a quiet side street, if you're distracted by something else, a car could catch you by surprise. And if you jump out into the street, you would catch a car by surprise. You could get hurt. That was thing number 1. Okay, so I'll give you that. And you already know that, and you already know that's bad. What's one of the other 2 things that you did wrong? And by this point, her eyes were as big as saucers, and she was looking at me because she thought I was mad at her, and I wasn't. And I was making that clear. But I was being serious with her. And she said, I approached the dog. I said, "Yes, absolutely right. You're absolutely right. You came running at a dog you've never met before. You had no idea how the dog would react. You didn't introduce yourself properly to the dog." And she was, and I said, "And you know that's wrong to do, right?" And she was nodding. And I said, "And do you know why that's wrong to do?" And she said, "Yeah, because the dog might be surprised or startled. He might bite me." And I said, "Yes, you're absolutely right." And at this point, the mother had come up. She had crossed the street with her other children. And I looked at her. I looked up at her, and I said, do you want to take over here? And she said, "You're doing just fine." So I turned back to the girl, and I said, "Okay, how about the 3rd thing you did wrong? What's the 3rd thing, the 3rd important thing that you did wrong here?" And she was just, because we'd covered the street, and we'd covered the dog. And so I said, "All right, I'm going to tell it to you, but you already know it. You're just a little stunned right now. I'm going to tell it to you. You approached a strange adult, without checking with your adult first. And you shouldn't do that. That is important and wrong to do." And she before I could go any further, she pointed it out, "But you're nice." And her mother was trying to kill a smile, and I was trying to kill a smile. I said, "You are absolutely right. I am nice, and we can be friends. You are perfectly safe to approach me at any time." But you didn't know that. You didn't know that. Plenty of bad people look nice. Better to be cautious. Better to be safe the way you were taught. Your mother and all of your teachers have taught you, don't do what you just did, right? And she was saying, "Yes. Yes, they have. Yep. Yep." I said, "Right. So you know all 3 of those things. Let's go over them. Number 1, you don't bolt across the street without looking. Number 2, you don't run up to a dog you've never met before. Some will be friendly." By this point, Frida was just jumping all over her and licking her face and licking her arms, so there was no trouble with Frida. I said, some of the ones that look friendly won't be, and it'll be too late by the time you do that. You have to be cautious ahead of time. And number 3, you don't go running up to strange adults without conferring with your adult. first. You need their permission to do it. They're going to know better than you. So and she was nodding the whole time. I said, so are we clear on all of that? Right? We're clear on all of that. You did 3 important things wrong. Everything turned out fine. Everything's fine now. Nothing to worry about now. But you have to remember that those things are important for a reason, and you shouldn't forget them. And she said, I won't. I promise I won't forget them. And I said, all right, well, then I feel free to pet Frida. And she looked at me and said, can I hug you? And I said, who do you have to ask? And she said, I have to ask my mom. And she turned and said, can I hug him? And she said, yes. So we hugged. And I said, no hard feelings at all. People forget things all the time, but you have to remember these things. These are so important. And then I stood up, and as I was standing up, her mother said, my turn, and she hugged me too. And that sent Frida into ballistics, of course, because attention was being paid to other people than her. So it was a fun, wonderful encounter that was largely caused by my little bean. I said, I don't think the girl would have come running across the street just for me. So there's your Frida moment there, a kind of Frida moment, is that she helped me to reinforce lessons for this girl. I didn't even want to touch on the fact that none of the 4 of them were wearing masks. I didn't even want to touch on that for them. For the moment, I was concerned with much, much bigger things. The things I'm sure she's been taught. So when we parted ways, I told her, if you see us again, you feel free to stop us and say hi. Especially if you're on the same side of the street, so that there's no risk at all. You feel free. You can say hi to Frida at any time. She's always happy to meet people, and she's going to remember you. She remembers everybody she meets, who greets her. So there you go. There's your Frida anecdote for the day, and a bunch of mail, including a gigantic pile of mega stuff Oreos. Good Lord. So I'm going to wrap this up for now, but I'll be back. And for those of you who are wondering, I have not forgotten the 7.4K Q&A. It takes a long time to sort of amass all of those things, but I'm going to do that. So I'll either do that later today or I'll do that tomorrow. But we will get that done because we are inching closer and closer every day to 7.5K. So we've got to have this one done. I don't want to get in arrears when it comes to Q&A. So it'll either be later today or it'll be tomorrow. But one way or another, I'm going to wrap this up. But I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.